Hey Facebook! Stop scrolling for just a moment and join us while we discuss some really interesting information that you can use to pass on to family and friends. My name is Brooke Nichols with Nature's Premier Diaper Service, and tonight I am here to share with you some benefits of composting your kitchen scraps and how you can get started today. 'Tis a season for composting, and if you know any families or friends that can use this information, please do give this video a share. It really does help get the message out to more people that can use it. Now let's get started. Before we jump into the benefits of composting, we highly recommend checking out the book, Compost This Book by Tom Christopher and Marty Asher. This is a fantastic book, and it helped me on my journey to learn how to compost my kitchen scraps. This book was written actually, I think, in 1991 or 1992, and it is still very relevant today. It gives you the breakdown of composting and the different ways to compost. So it's a highly recommended book, and we definitely recommend that you guys check it out if you're serious about starting a kitchen composting program or even a backyard composting program. So there's some really good reasons to, why you should start to compost your kitchen scraps. One of the biggest ones is that it does reduce methane emissions from landfills and lowers your carbon footprint. So what we mean by this is, let's say you throw all of your scraps into a trash can. Now, when that plastic bag is taken to a landfill, it actually doesn't decay, right? So it produces methane gas, and that is a greenhouse gas for those of you that don't know, and it really is toxic to our environment. It does, contribute to global warming. So we really try to limit that. And some people ask us, they're like, well, what would we put inside of, what's compostable that we eat and what's not compostable, and we will get into that in a second. But if you are serious about reducing your carbon footprint and helping to reduce emissions that are released into our air, then we highly recommend you guys check out composting. Another benefit of, hi Kelly! Another benefit of compostable, using compost is that it delivers a balanced blend of nutrients that plants need to grow. So if you are into gardening, or even if you have some house plants, compost has it all. Now, if you're home composting, there's different things that you can do to make sure you get the essential nutrients, but you wouldn't even have to go to the store for them. It's all found in your home. Another benefit of using a home composting program is, unlike fertilizers, which act quickly and can burn plants, compost is gentle and slow to release, so it will not damage your plants like other store-bought compost. And also, compost adds organic matter to the soil, which allows for more oxygen penetration and greater water retention, so your plants do live longer. And this goes for outside plants, and this goes for indoor plants. So one of the things that we get asked a lot is, with composting diapers, they're like, well, can we compost diapers like we compost food? And composting diapers is a totally different program. It's a totally different setup. But composting food is actually very easy. And a lot of people say, hey, if I just throw it in the garbage bag, then what's the big deal? It'll break down anyway. Well, it doesn't break down if it's inside of a bag or anything sealed. So that's why it's really important that we, spread the word about kitchen composting. So, one of the most commonly asked questions is, what can you compost? Can I just throw everything that I eat that's on my dish inside of a composting bin? And that's actually, no, you cannot do that. So just a breakdown of some of the things that you can compost. You can compost any of your vegetables, any fruit waste, including rinds and cores. Even if they are mold and ugly looking or they smell, you can certainly compost them. And what we recommend doing is, especially for home composters inside of their kitchen, and for those of you that have apartments and can't start a home composting program in your backyard, is to get a little bin. They actually sell them on Amazon. There's an aluminum bin. We recommend, I don't know the brand, but they have a bunch of them. We definitely recommend aluminum, or you can get plastic, and you can put that on top of your kitchen counter, and you can line it with a bag if you'd like, or you can just throw it in directly, and you would put all of these scraps in there. So some of the things that you can compost, back to that, is vegetables, fruits, old bread, donuts, cookies, crackers, pizza crust, noodles, anything made of flour, which is surprising, grains, cooked or uncooked. This goes for vegetables too. Any vegetables that are cooked, you can certainly compost that. For a long time, I thought that you can only compost raw vegetables and raw fruit, but you can actually compost cooked fruit and cooked vegetables, which is cool to know. Rice, barley, anything in the grain family, quinoa, things like that. coffee grinds, tea bags, and filters. So literally right after you make coffee in the morning, you can take out your tea bag and your coffee bag and your coffee grinds and throw them in the little compost bin, and that will actually be compostable. Old spices, so if you have some old oregano in the cabinet, some old pepper, salt, whatever it is, throw them right in the compost bin. Outdated boxes of food from the pantry. This could be like some cereals, maybe oatmeal, eggshells. Crush them real well, but eggshells can actually be composted. And corn cobs and husks. You do not need to cut them in half, but corn cobs do break down very, very slowly. So we highly recommend cutting those in half, especially broccoli as well. If let's say broccoli goes bad in your refrigerator, we definitely recommend to cut those up just so they compost a little faster. Things that you cannot compost are meat or meat waste, bones, fat, gristle, skin, anything like that. Fish or fish waste, and any kind of dairy products like cheese, butter, cottage, or even yogurt. Now, a big thing for this is because they actually they get rancid, and they do not promote good bacteria to help break the compost down. Also, if you are if you're like have like a backyard where you're going to be doing a compost program, they attract all different types of rodents, all different types of animals, and they can have like bacteria maggots that grow in it. So it's really not fun. You definitely want to keep any kind of meat and dairy away from your compost, and just stick with organic matter like we discussed, such as the vegetables, fruits, old bread, noodles, grains, coffee, fruit, old spices, outdated boxes of food, eggshells, corn on the cobs, and things like that. So what we have been asked before a lot too is about composting, because when we have customers that compost their diapers, they also seem to compost their food because they know the benefits of composting. And a biggest thing is like, hey, we live in an apartment. How do we compost? If we're living in an apartment, we don't have a backyard. And there's several ways that you can compost, inside of your home. We will definitely do more of a deep dive into the different systems. But the biggest thing that we recommend is to getting a small bin and putting it on your counter and starting there. Any kitchen, like we said, any of the kitchen scraps that you have, you would start putting in your compost. Now, all of like the rotting food, that all will break down and kind of be compost, but you actually do need to add different matter to it. And it can all be found in your house. You do not need to go anywhere to buy things to make it more compostable. And that would be adding, anything from like leaves you can add newspaper, like we spoke about, you can add filters, you can add all different things, recyclable paper. If you go to like Whole Foods and you didn't bring your reusable bag that day and you're using like a plastic bag, their bags are actually compostable. They do break down. So we use that for a long time, when we were jumping into like the reusables and starting to like build our stash of reusable bags. So we would actually take those old Whole Foods bags and we would use that as part of our kitchen program. And this is in my home personally. And they really work well. They have plant-based inks. So anything that you put into your compost, you want to make sure that they have plant-based inks, that they're not going to leach out and have any like added chemicals or anything like that. So that's what you would do. And then you can like mix it up. You can even store it in a bag and put it in your freezer and wait till the warmer weather, and then you can use that to actually line pots and put it in your home. So compost, when it has all the right components, which it does break down into the Compost This book. It gives you all of like the elements and what is needed and the different chemical breakdown of that. But you can put it in your freezer if you're not using it, and just store it. And then when the springtime hits or the summer hits, whatever it hits, because it's still cold here in New York, you would take that out, thaw it out, and you would line your pots with it and put plants in it. So it's really, really, really interesting. Composting there's so much that you can do with it, and a lot of people don't know that that's like one of the biggest way to reduce your carbon footprint. You can do reusables all day, but if you're eating and you're throwing it in a bag, that is creating methane gas, and that is harming the environment. So I'm going to jump into the comments, not the compost, into the comments real quick. If anybody has any questions, I am happy to answer anything that you guys may have about composting. So hi Mia, thank you for joining. Any questions at all? Now, what we do is, for me, I live in a home on Long Island, and we actually have a bin outside that we collect all of our, I literally, everything that I eat, it goes right into the compost. We are actually vegetarians, so we don't eat meat, so there's no meat that's going into the compost. But we have to be careful. Some things that that like my kids may have or my husband may have, like, can't go in. If it has any kind of dairy or anything like that, it doesn't go in. And it's funny because there's two bins. There's one bin right here and there's one bin right here. One goes, all like the food goes into one bin, and then the other bin is where we transferred the composted matter into this bin, and where we added leaves and we added bags and water. That's another thing. Again, we're going to do a deep dive in another video about doing outside composting versus inside composting. But there's one pile of like 3 years of food that's broken down, and the pile might seem big when you first start doing it, but when it starts to reduce, it gets flat, and it's like, you could understand why compost can be expensive at the store. And that's what we do. So like when it breaks down, we always transfer that matter into the other container or bin, so to speak. And then it's just a constant cycle. So during the warmer months, we use that, and we use that for gardening and planting and things like that, because it has all of the nutritional content that any plants would need, whether they be house plants, herbs, things like that. It really does feed the soil, and it is fantastic to use. We know several people that do indoor composting. They use like worm composting, which is really cool, and we're excited to talk about that in the next session. There is cold composting, there's blender composting, there's all sorts of different things that you guys can do. We have some friends that have, they'll take like the composted material and they'll just dump it in the woods, and the animals will eat it and things like that. So, I mean, you can certainly do that too, as long as there's not like meat and things like that, because you don't want to add any pollution or anything like that to the environment. But if you guys know anybody that can use this information about composting, please do share this video. Again, it does really help spread the message to more people that can use it. So we're just going to do a real quick breakdown of the benefits of composting. It helps to reduce methane emissions from landfills and lowers your carbon footprint. Compost delivers a balanced blend of nutrients and that plants need to grow. Unlike fertilizers, which act quickly and can burn plants, compost is gentle and slow to release, which means it doesn't bombard the plant with all different nutrients and burn it out. Compost adds organic matter to your soil, which allows more oxygen penetration and greater water retention. So, and compost is just easy. It's free. You get high quality product. Like free as in you buy the food, but then the byproduct you don't have to pay for. So it's not like you're eating all this, like everybody, that we know like buys organic, and they try to like reduce their pesticides use and all this other stuff, and then they're just throwing everything out. So it's like, why don't make a byproduct of that? Because that byproduct is very powerful and it's very nutritious, and especially during this summer months, whether you indoor home garden or you outdoor garden, eating food that has compost from food that you had eaten is very rich, and it's very nutritious, and it's very good for your family. So we highly, highly, highly recommend that you guys get started on a composting program in your home. You do not need a big lab to compost these. It's not like diapers or anything like that. It's very simple to do. It's so easy to get started. And next week we will be talking about the different ways to compost, because there are, again, several different ways to compost, whether it be cold composting, blender composting, indoor composting, outdoor composting, and worm composting, which is very popular. I'm going to jump into the comments one more time. If anybody has any questions, please do feel free to ask. And this can be started any way, like any time of the year. It can be started any way. You can even do it in a bag. We went to a sanctuary upstate for 2 weeks a couple years ago, and they didn't have any bins or anything like that. And by the way, the bin is not the size of a garbage can. It's actually small. It's about this big, and you would just toss everything in there and then dump it when it's full. But what this sanctuary did, I think it was the Catskill Animal Sanctuary, or I forgot the name, Woodstock Animal Sanctuary. That's what it was. And they had bags, like Whole Foods bags, and or they may have just been brown bags, but it was very similar. And they dumped all of the compost for that day in their freezer, so it doesn't smell. There's no like fruit fly issues or anything like that. The biggest tips that we would give if you are going to start, if you're really motivated to get started on a composting program, is to get a bin with a lid on top, so that you don't have any issues of fruit flies when the summer months come, and things like that. You don't want to really attract those little guys, because they're a handful and you don't want to deal with it. But you can compost any time of the year. It's not something that's season specific. So even if you compost in the winter, you can save that compost for later, for the summer, and dispose of it or use it as you would like. Well, thank you guys for joining us today for another Facebook Live video session. And if you guys, like always, have any questions, please do feel free to message us. My name is Brooke with Nature's Premier Diaper Service. We are a cloth and compostable diaper service, providing families throughout Long Island and New York City with a healthier way to diaper their babies. Should you have any questions about the services that we do provide, please give us a call at 877-492-5684 or visit us on the web at www.naturespremier.com. Thank you guys for listening in tonight, and we'll see you back next Sunday night at 8:30. Take care.